Richard's Toy Room once again. Today we have a toy. Not a model, not a game, not something off the wall. An actual toy. Something that I intend to do a lot more videos on, but this one kind of just popped into my lap, dropped into my lap. I had bid on a box full of vintage stuff on eBay, and this was in there, and he needs repair. I don't know if he needs repair, but I mean, he's broken. There really is no repair for the problem that I'm about to show you, but I've always kind of wanted to take one of these apart, and this is a good opportunity. So I introduce you to Lee Majors, the $6 million man, and his head's broken off. Otherwise, he's actually not in bad shape. I mean, to be honest, I could feel his crusty, what's left over of his rubber arm skin on here. This outfit's fairly shot, and I'll show you a little bit more in the close-ups. But the main problem is his head. These weren't made to come off, and I have seen them broken before. Not personally, I've seen, you know online. But in order to get his bionic arm function, which if I was doing this, his arm would be going like this, up, but it won't because this is jammed, first of all, and you have to turn his head slightly to the right in order to engage this whole mechanism. So we're gonna, and there's no screws in this, so you have to basically crack the body apart. So we're gonna do that and try to glue his head back to what's left of the post there. And being that this is that kind of plastic that melts with glue that I have, the plastic bonding stuff, I think we'll have pretty good luck getting this back on and get it to work. The only problem that we're going to have is seeing how much we can get apart without destroying it. So, I mean, I know I can glue it back together, it's just a matter of how ugly is it going to be. Okay, so here we are. Amazingly, his chips are still intact. Those are always missing. This one barely wants to even stay in there. That's why they're always missing, because it's a loose fit, especially on that one. The bottom one's in here too. It's just about falling out. But this is what the skin looks like when it petrifies, and it's like glue trying to get it off of here. Yeah, the other thing that goes on these is the elastic in the outfits, and they just do not want to stay on. So I don't think this was played with too much because usually, like I said, the modules would be missing, and there'd be a lot more wear on the paint on the head, and even the joints, except for this one knee, are all fairly snug on everything. And the kid probably broke the head off and looks like they tried to tape it on, and then they tried to glue it on. So, but let me show you these outfits. It's going to be hard to see, but let me see, maybe I can stick my hand in there. See how you can see my skin through there? This material is just terrible. It's like very easily abraded. It's almost like, I can't even describe it. I don't even know exactly what you would call this. It's almost like it's flocked inside. It's soft, and this stuff in here rubs off real easy. And plus, this stuff is so thin that it gets holes in it really easily as well. And that goes for the top too, obviously. So now, I don't know if we have to take these arms off. There is one version of this where the arms do not come off. Well, let me rephrase that. There's one version where the left arm won't come off. But this one looks like it's the one that does. And I think that's the early version. I'm not 100% sure which came first. But the way to take these off, hopefully without breaking them, is to kind of just basically pull them straight off. Like that. Because these break very easily from pulling the arm on and off, and these also get broken up here. But we got to take that off in order to clean this arm anyway. But I think just getting them out of our way would help. They're super tight. There. Like I said, I've never taken one of these apart, so I don't know exactly how involved we're going to have to get in this. What I did do was just, I think I'm going to pull these legs off too. These are, I don't like pulling the legs and arms off of these because they're fragile, but the way that you're supposed to do it off according to the directions is you're supposed to pivot the leg towards the back. At the hip. They're so tight. I don't think they've ever been off. Oh my God. These are on there. I think we'll just leave them for now. I don't want to break them. So up in here, there's almost like a screwdriver. So I just tried to turn it, but I think the problem is that they got some glue in there. So when I started turning it, the torso actually started to crack apart, which is what we want to do. Unfortunately, now I'm looking at the cracks and it's not going where I want it to go. Now I've done this before. I use this glue to soften the seams. And that does help. But this one's already started to crack, so I don't know how much it's going to help. There it goes. Got one shoulder. So what happened was it split down about halfway, and then it started cracking along the back on both sides. So I was debating whether I should pull that off or, because I can glue it back on either way, it's just going to be ugly. Alright. Well, let's see what we can do here. There we go. Okay. Wow, that is way more complicated than I thought. I see the neck post split in half as well. So we're going to have to glue that back together first. So yeah, in case you're interested, this is what it looks like inside. So we just need to glue that back together and glue it onto the head. And then just put it back together. Alright, so we will do that off camera. Okay, so it's been a little over a day. I actually had to go back and I used the actual model glue instead of the liquid stuff because there's such a small area up here that was left for the glue to adhere to that it really wasn't holding as nice as I wanted it to. And I just like put a whole big glop of that in there and then pressed this in there so it would have a lot more something to adhere to once it dried. It works pretty much the same as the liquid glue, except it takes longer to dry. But if you have a little bit more in there, it kind of maybe gives it a little bit more to grab onto, a little bit more surface area. So I did test this in the body, and it seems to be fine. I mean, I wouldn't go like, yanking on it real hard, but I think it'll hold up for our purposes anyway. So anyway, I did go ahead and I used a little bit of white lube and just lubed up the moving parts and the gear surfaces in here just to, just help it out a little bit. I don't know if it really needed it or not, but you could see how it works. I mean, you push down on the red button on the back and it hits this little lever here. Let me get a screwdriver. It hits this little lever here and pushes it down, and it ratchets. And then the spring pushes it back. It's got a little hole in the knob here that goes in the back, and so it pulls it back out. So it's kind of like and kind of. This is a double gear with a ratcheting mechanism, and then this is a worm gear, so it just constantly turns, and then it turns the gear back here, which in turn turns this also ratcheting gear, which makes this right arm, got it backwards, go up and he can raise that engine block up. And then on top is the little mechanism, how it works. It's the head has a little cam on it with a little button that goes in this little slot right here, and it moves this back and forth like that. So like that way would be disconnected, this way would be, this is all connected inside, and that's how it works. So that's pretty much how it's engineered. So now we're going to put it back together. And this is again where you need like 4 hands. So you need to get this red post inside that spring in there, and then the hole in the post on top of the white post, kind of all at the same time. And we also have to get the torso back in there as well. So let's see how much of this we can kind of do here. It's a little finicky here. Tip of this red post also has to go down into a little tube, which is the hard part. Kind of wondering if I should have put it together the opposite way. Wait, I think I got it. Okay, so we have that where it belongs. Now we have to get this torso in, so we gotta open this up again. I think I got it. Yeah. Alright, so before we glue this all back together, so his head, you gotta turn it this way. Feels real nice and smooth. There it goes. It's working. Right. And to release it, turn the head back the other way. And it's loose. I would call that a success. Now we have to glue the body back together. Alright, so here's kind of the tricky part. Now, I could use this, which is actually probably the smarter move. But now that I got it together, I think I'm going to try seeing if this will do the job. You have to be careful because it's all made of the same plastic, and if this gets somewhere you don't want it to be, it ain't gonna move. So you want to be light with it when you get up, like say near the neck and down here on the right at the edge of the torso, because you know, if it starts creeping in there, and it could, you know, glue the waist together or keep the neck from moving, or even the arms. So you want to, I would go heavy here, and then maybe here, and then light everywhere that gets close to another body part. So, well, let's see what happens. There are a little bit of chips that came out along the seam where it came apart. So I'm trying to kind of use the screwdriver to maybe push some of the plastic into the crack hole so it's not as noticeable. And you can smooth that out later with some more glue, and even you can even like kind of sand it down a little bit if you really wanted to. I just got glue on the back here that I'm going to have to get rid of. There was a side crack that went this way, so I just put some glue in it, and it kind of seeped out. There, he's back together. He's not perfect. I'll give you a little bit of look there. You can see, you can see the seam that I cracked open, but if you really wanted to play around with that, you could kind of get those little gaps hidden a little better, and then you could take a little bit of light sandpaper, and then you can polish it afterwards with some plastic polish, which I'm going to do a little bit of that anyway, because I got some glue marks. As you can see, I mean, he's essentially fixed now. So I'll turn the head. And just watch the function still works. Okay, so we had a little bit of a problem. The glue that I used to hold the head on, it wasn't strong enough to withstand repeated rotations. So I came up with an alternative solution. What I've found, what I think is going to work. First of all, I'm going to use epoxy instead of model glue. So that's number one. Secondly, I'm going to use a expandable, I forget what these things are called, for putting in, hanging up things in the, like a wall. You put these little expanders in, and that'll fit perfectly through the hole in the top here. And then when I put the screw in, it will expand it enough to open up in here. And I'm going to put enough glue in here so that when it dries, it'll like grab onto that in here as well. And I drilled a hole through the neck plug here, and this thing will fit all the way through, and it'll go flush with this so it doesn't interfere with anything, and so will the screw head. I countersunk the hole. So everything should be perfect after that. It should be pretty strong. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so we ran into a little bit of a problem, and as I said, I had to re-glue this. I probably should have drilled this hole just maybe a millimeter bigger or so. I didn't quite take into account that it was going to expand a little bit when I put the screw in it, but it all worked out in the end and fits in here. I did have to just kind of shave the neck hole just a little bit because of what I just mentioned, but I've tested it, and it'll work now like this. So like I said, I mean, it was basically a broken figure, so we're trying to salvage it is what we're trying to do here. So what else I also did was I took a little bit of like 2000 grit sandpaper, and I sanded oh sorry, that's the wrong arm. I sanded where I had scraped the that latex skin that was adhered to here. Again, not perfect. I could have done a little better job, but I was just wanting to get it done. There are some kind of like gouge marks that I could scrape and sand those down smoother. But then I took some Scratch X, the polish, and polished it up. So, I mean, this one takes the skin. So, I mean, once you put the skin on it, you're not going to see it. As you can see, there's no wonder these are missing all the time. It barely stays in here at all. I mean, as soon as you flip it over. But I did the same thing with those, but I, where the skin was stuck and I had to scrape it off, I used the Plastex, which works really good for clear. So anyway, the uniform, I peeled the emblem off. It's in good shape, but it was kind of peeling off at the edges, so I decided to just pull completely the rest of the way off. So when I put it on, I'm not sure if I'm going to put it back on this uniform since this uniform has damage to it. But maybe I'll make a copy of it or something and just put a fake one on there. I also found a pair of socks and shoes, sneakers for them. So again, I'll put them on just when we're done here, but I don't know if I'm going to leave it on there. It's not an A+ figure by any means. I'm also going to touch up the spots on his hair, but we'll do that later. So now we have to put them back together again. Once again, it's been a while. I had to go review what I've already recorded for this, but this should be the last chapter. I believe where we left off was I had to reinforce the neck on this because the glue itself wouldn't hold, and I had come up with some other solution. And that does seem to work now. It doesn't look like it's going to break off. Yeah, the arm's going up. Yeah. So this all works now. So what we got left is to replace the skin on the arm. That's what was holding me off on this because I couldn't get what I needed to repair this. So what I was waiting for were these things. I couldn't get them. There's these Qualitex, basically balloons that you know, they use to make like balloon animals and stuff. They're pretty long. Just pull one out of here. I'll show you. I mean, they're pretty long. And for the $6 Million Man, you have to get what's called the 350Q, which I believe is the size. And the color is blush. I bought two different colors thinking that the blush was going to be too light, which in my opinion it kind of is, but the only other color that I could find that was kind of close but darker, you know, because of his skin tone, was mocha, which looked like it might work, but when I got it, it was like brown. So that was not going to work. And also, as a test, I used the remainder of what I cut off on one of these to try to see if it would work on the Bionic Woman. And it actually, for the most part, it does, except right at the, I don't know if this is showing up good on there, but right at her wrist, it's a little loose. When I was going to try maybe using a hairdryer and seeing if that would like kind of shrink it down. If so, this would be a perfect solution for her as well. Otherwise, I might have to order the next size down, which is 250. But it does work. I'll show you. As you can see. So if I can get this just to tuck up just a little bit, I think actually it's really not that bad. I mean, if you have her in a outfit where her covers this, big deal. Or if you want to display it up. But you know, OCD, that's going to bother people. But anyway, that's really not the subject of this video. I've figured out the perfect length to cut it, and then I made a little hole up here because it's got to go over this pin, and here's the opening for it, which it would line up with. Now this will stretch and the hole will get a lot bigger, so you don't want to make a big hole. You might be able to get away without even making one, but I don't know how that's going to hold up to repeated use. That may be how they did it at the factory, I don't know, but everyone I've ever taken off has had like a hole there, but it could have been caused by putting the arm on and off. Well, anyway, these are a pain to get on, and I've tried rolling them up by putting them like on a Sharpie, and that only partly helps, because if you do it like all the way, you can't stretch it open far enough to even get it on because it's so tough with that much rubber. So what you usually end up doing, so you're kind of starting with that. See, if you try stretching this open, it's like almost impossible. It's like really tight. And it's real pain to get this thing on here. But if you don't do it this way, you risk tearing it. Which if you only have one, is not going to help you too much. If you have a bag of 100, like I do, you can afford to tear a few. Now see, it unrolled on me. It's really difficult. But once you get it on, you don't have to take it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the camera and I'm going to get this started. And if there's anything different, I'll let you know. Alright, so I've got it started on here. This is pretty much the only way I've had luck getting it on. But you have to be really careful. So I did about, about an inch or two on the Sharpie pen and rolled it back and then fought with it to get on here. So then what you're going to have to do is kind of just inch it down. So kind of get it to go down. Then gently kind of pull. You got to be real careful not to tear it. Once you get it past this bicep, it's easy. And don't worry about putting in the modules yet. In fact, it's probably easier to do them afterwards anyway. Sometimes they like want to fall out. Sorry, I've got a bunch of lighters here I'm working on and they're rattling and it's driving me crazy. So you got to pull down, so I'll try to do some more. Now if you've already made the hole, try to get it lined up. And the only bad part about these is once you get done, I'll show you. Get it about that far, you can roll it back, like when you're putting it on. That will make it a little easier. You got a little something to grab onto to kind of yank it down farther. Again, be careful because you can tear it. And I actually just damaged this one. So that's how easy it is. Because you got to be kind of a little rough with it to get it on here. And you got to watch your fingernails, basically. Yeah. Alright, there we go. Wrinkle in there. Actually, I don't even see the part where I thought I put a nick in it, but I'm not seeing it now. As you can see, here's the hole where the pin will fit in. Sometimes there's a little bit, depending on the balloon, there might be a little bit of a kind of a bump from the thick part of the end of the balloon up here. But now, take it and just roll it back. This is how they were designed to work. It is a very tight fit. So now be careful. When you have the arm off, you could roll it right off the end here. So make sure you stop. Now we'll put the chips in. Which way do these go? Like this, I think. Yep. Okay, there's chip 1. And nope, that's backwards. Chip 2. But if it is, if it ends up like that, see how it's like kind of on his wrist a little bit? You can just kind of pull it back a little bit. And there's enough stretch in it, because you really got it stretched, that if it's a little too long, you just kind of play with it a little bit till you get it where you want it. But it's better than being too short. Really? So, there we go. Now we put it on. All you do is press on. And pull off. And see? And press on. Turn head to the side. He's not perfect. Head's just a tiny bit crooked from the way I did the repair. But we put a shirt on. But this was basically, can we save him from the trash? And the answer is, yes, we can. And there he is. Now I've already got, I think, I don't know how many of these in the original outfit. So here's the sticker in case you were wondering. It goes here. Looks like that. But I'm not going to put that on him. Anyway, there you go. Saved from the trash. Was able to rebuild him. I had the technology. Couldn't resist, sorry. So thanks for watching, and be sure to come back for more great videos. I've got tons that I'm trying to pump out like this, where I've done the first part and kind of put them on the back burner. So I'm trying to get all those out now and get them off my computer, where they're just sitting there waiting. So I've got at least, I think, 4 more that I could just finish like this with one last segment. So, we'll see you next time.